They thought she was serving supper. But what the enslaved maid carried to the table in Charleston, South Carolina, in 1822, was something far more dangerous than food. That night, she served them a feast of revenge. And long after, whispers claimed the family ate something even darker, the taste of their own sins. Her name is lost to history. She was simply the maid, one of thousands of enslaved women forced to labor inside the fine houses of Charleston as wealthy families in the early 19th century. In 1822, Charleston was a city of contradictions. Along its cobblestone streets, merchant wealth flourished. Houses glowed with candlelight. Tables groaned under silverware and imported wines. But behind those walls, the labor of enslaved men and women powered everything: cooking, cleaning, tending children, polishing bots. The maid's world was the kitchen. From before dawn until long past dark, she chopped, stirred, scrubbed. Every plate she placed on the master's table was a reminder of her bondage, and every insult, every strike, every command reinforced her chains. Her mistress mocked her. Her master struck her. Even the children of the house, spoiled by wealth and cruelty, ordered her about with the arrogance they had learned from their parents. The overseer loomed as well, watching her with threats and blows, a constant reminder that she had no body of her own, no freedom to claim, not even safety within the kitchen walls. 1822 was also the year Denmark Vesey, a free black man in Charleston, planned a massive slave revolt. Though discovered before it could take place, the atmosphere of the city was thick with fear. White families whispered of uprisings. Black men and women whispered of freedom. And in that charged air, one maid began to imagine vengeance. The kitchen was her prison, but it was also her weapon. Food was her burden. She cooked the feasts, but never ate from them. She served the delicacies, but survived on scraps. Every bite the master's family enjoyed was built on her sweat, her labor, her stolen time. The irony cut her like a knife. Day after day, she prepared meals for people who saw her as less than human. She roasted meat for men who starved enslaved field hands. She polished glasses for women who spit insults in her face. She baked bread for children who would grow to inherit the whip. The punishments grew harsher. Some say the maid was struck one evening for serving supper too late. Others whisper she was humiliated in front of the family, mocked until tears burned her eyes. That night, something broke. Alone in the kitchen, she stood before her tools: knives, spices, pots, jars of herbs. She knew what grew outside, what older enslaved women whispered about in the quarters: roots and leaves that could sicken, powders that could kill. She had listened when others warned their children not to touch, not to brew too strong. She remembered, and she planned. She began to collect, quietly, carefully, a sprig here, a pinch there, enough to twist a meal from nourishment into poison, enough to remind her oppressors that even a servant could hold power in her hands. For days she waited, for the right moment, for the night the master and his family would sit together, expecting to be served as always, never imagining that the maid had grown tired of feeding their cruelty. Her hands trembled as she stirred the pot, not from fear, but from resolve. The dining room flickered with candlelight. The family gathered as always, voices sharp with laughter, dripping with arrogance. From the kitchen door, the maid entered. She carried a tray heavy with roasted meat, vegetables, bread, a feast for people who saw her only as property. She set the dishes down, her face blank, her body bent in the posture of servitude. But her eyes burned with something unspoken. The master cut into his portion, chewing without pause. His wife sipped her wine, speaking in scornful tones. The children laughed, spilling crumbs onto the polished table. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Only the clinking of forks, the scrape of knives. But soon, a shift, a cough, a groan. The mistress's face twisted pale. The master's hand gripped the edge of the table, veins bulging. The overseer, present as a guest, dropped his cup, clutching his stomach. Gasps turned to gagging. Laughter dissolved into screams. The room filled with chaos. The very chaos that enslaved families endured in silence, now mirrored in the house of their oppressors. The maid stood in the corner, silent, watching. What happened next is blurred by history, but sharpened by folklore. Some accounts say the family writhed through the night, sickened but not killed. Others claim one or more fell dead at the table, the poison too strong to resist. And then came the legend, whispered from one enslaved cook to another, passed like a secret flame, that the maid's revenge went further, that she served the family a dish not of meat, but of their own sins, that what they consumed that night was not just poisoned food, but a symbolic punishment. Did she truly feed them something darker? Or was it a story reshaped in the retelling, a parable of justice told among the enslaved to keep hope alive and to keep terror alive among the oppressors? We cannot know, but the legend endured. The aftermath was chaos. The house erupted in sickness, in suspicion. The maid was seized, dragged from the kitchen where she had plotted her revenge. The punishments for poisoning were brutal and public. Many enslaved cooks accused of such acts were whipped, hanged, or burned alive as warnings. The city of Charleston, already tense from Vesey's failed uprising, responded with fear. White families whispered about the danger of the food they ate, about the servants who prepared it. The maid may have been executed, her name erased from record. Or perhaps she vanished into rumor, becoming less a person than a story. And what a story it became. Among enslaved communities, her tale spread quietly, told in firelit quarters after long days in the fields. A story of a woman who used the very tools of her bondage, the kitchen, the pot, the plate, to strike back. A reminder that resistance could take many forms: open revolt, secret planning, or even the silent stirring of a poisoned stew. For the slaveholding class, it was a nightmare. It fed their paranoia, their fear that those they oppressed might turn the very bread on their table into a weapon. And for us it lingers as a haunting question. How many such acts of defiance were buried? How many whispered legends were never written down? This was the story of the maid who served revenge in 1822 Charleston. History may have erased her name, but her act, whether remembered as truth or as legend, remains a symbol of defiance in the darkest of times. She reminds us that the kitchen was never just a place of servitude. It could also be a battlefield. If you believe these hidden histories must be remembered, share this video, subscribe to our channel, and explore our playlist on stories of slavery and resistance. Because remembering is resistance, and silence is complicity.